I grew up in the quiet suburbs of Akron, Ohio, where the lawns were trimmed to perfection and the neighbors smiled politely, but never truly spoke from the heart. Our home sat at the end of a cul-de-sac, neat and symmetrical, much like the expectations that governed our lives. My father, Robert, managed a local bank branch and believed that life's worth could be measured in order and stability. My mother, Susan, kept the house immaculate, always ensuring the curtains matched the cushions and that our family appeared picture-perfect. Then there was my brother, Michael, 4 years older, the family's golden child. Athletic, charming, and effortlessly adored, he wore their approval like a crown. And then there was me, Elena. Quiet, observant, and drawn to colors and ideas that couldn't fit neatly inside my parents' world. While Michael practiced baseball with my father cheering from the sidelines, I sat in my room with a second-hand laptop, learning to create digital art. I'd lose myself in shades, shapes, and the endless possibilities of design. It felt like breathing, something natural and freeing. At 15, I decided to share my dream during one of our Friday dinners, a weekly ritual of pot roast and small talk. I looked up from my plate and said, "I think I want to study graphic design in college." The table went silent. My father paused mid-slice, the knife hovering above his plate. "Graphic design," he said slowly. "That's a hobby, not a career." My mother smiled tightly. "Sweetheart, people in that field barely make enough to live. Why not accounting? Something practical." Michael chuckled, swirling his drink. "Yeah, good luck designing logos for burger joints." Their laughter filled the room, warm to them but cold to me. I smiled faintly and nodded, hiding my shaking hands beneath the table. That night, as I lay in bed, I promised myself I would prove them wrong, not through anger, but through achievement. When I turned 17, the difference between us became impossible to ignore. For Michael's 21st birthday, they gave him a brand new pickup truck, polished and gleaming in the driveway. For mine, I got a $40 gift card with a note that read, "Buy something sensible." I used it to purchase an online course in digital design. It felt like rebellion disguised as responsibility. I enrolled in community college and balanced classes, with long hours at a local diner, waitressing to cover my bills. I'd come home exhausted, clothes smelling of grease, but my heart full of quiet pride. My parents rarely called, and when they did, the conversation always drifted back to Michael, his promotions, his relationships, his brilliance. But there was one person who never forgot me, my grandmother Evelyn. Evelyn lived in a small town across the Indiana border, in a weathered bungalow surrounded by lilac bushes. Every Sunday, she'd call just to ask how I was really doing. "You've got your grandpa's grit, sweetheart," she'd say. "Don't let anyone dim that spark of yours." During summers, I'd visit her, helping tend her vegetable garden or repaint her porch. She'd tell me stories about rebuilding her life after losing my grandfather, how she'd learned to rely on her own two hands. "Independence isn't loneliness, Elena," she said once, handing me a mug of lemonade. "It's your anchor." By 21, I graduated with a degree in digital media from a small state university. No one from my family attended the ceremony. I stood alone, diploma in hand, the campus wind tugging at my hair. I took a photo in front of the admin building and mailed it to my parents with a simple caption, "First job next week." They never replied. Still, I held on to a tiny, foolish hope that maybe, someday, they'd see me differently. Michael's name continued to dominate family conversations, even in absence. "Michael's interning at a top firm," my mother would tell relatives. "He's starting law school soon," my father would add proudly. When I called to share that I'd been promoted to junior designer, my mother's response was almost absent-minded, "That's nice, dear. Did you hear Michael's firm is offering him a scholarship?" I hung up, forcing back tears. Holidays became harder. At Thanksgiving, my father raised his glass and said, "To Michael, the pride of our family." My mother whispered something that made them both laugh, something about legacy. I excused myself and went outside, the autumn wind stinging my cheeks. I realized then that no matter how hard I worked, I'd always be the quiet shadow beside Michael's spotlight. At 26, I lost my footing. The small marketing firm where I worked shut down suddenly during an economic downturn. Overnight, I was unemployed. My savings ran out within weeks, and when my roommate decided to move out, I couldn't cover rent alone. I called home, heart pounding. "Dad," I said softly, "I need help. I just need a loan to get through the month. I'll pay it back." There was a pause. Then his voice came through, calm but distant. "Elena, choices have consequences. You picked a risky career. Maybe this is a lesson." My mother added, "We're already paying for Michael's tuition. You'll have to figure it out." The line went dead. I sat in the dark, phone in hand, tears rolling silently down my face. That night, I drove through pouring rain to my parents' house. My clothes were soaked by the time I reached their doorstep. My father opened the door just a crack. "Elena, it's late. Please," I whispered, "I just need a place to stay." He shook his head. "We can't do that right now." The door closed. The sound echoed through me like thunder. I sat in my car, drenched and trembling, realizing I no longer had a family, at least not in the way I once believed. The next few weeks were a blur. I slept in my car behind a shopping mall, showered at a gym, and applied for jobs at coffee shops and art studios. One afternoon, while hunched over my laptop in a cafe, I heard a familiar voice, "Elena. Is that you?" It was Sarah, a classmate from high school. Her expression shifted from recognition to concern. Are you okay?" Something inside me cracked. I told her everything. Without hesitation, she said, "You're staying with me tonight." Her kindness felt like a miracle. She and her partner offered me a spare room, a warm meal, and something I hadn't felt in a long time, safety. Through Sarah's network, I landed an interview at a small creative studio run by her partner's friend, Alex. He reviewed my portfolio and smiled. "You've got vision," he said. "We could use someone like you." That job became my lifeline. Slowly, I rebuilt, one project, one paycheck at a time. Just as things started to feel steady again, life threw another test my way. My phone buzzed late one night. Grandma Evelyn hospitalized. Heart complications. I dropped everything and drove to Indiana. When I arrived, she looked frail but peaceful. She squeezed my hand. "You made it, sweetheart. I knew you would." A few days later, she handed me an envelope. Inside were the house keys and a letter. "The bungalow's yours now," she whispered. "Protect what's yours." That night, she passed away in her sleep. At the wheel reading, my parents' faces turned pale when they learned she had left everything to me, the bungalow, her savings, her love immortalized in ink. My father stood abruptly. "This is absurd. We deserve that inheritance." I met his glare calmly. Grandma made her choice. I walked out, keys in hand, my heart both heavy and light. The bungalow stood waiting, weathered but welcoming. I opened the door, sunlight spilling over the old wooden floorboards, and whispered home at last. Peace settled into my life like a long-awaited sunrise. For the first time, I woke each morning with a sense of calm instead of dread. My little bungalow had transformed from a weathered relic into a reflection of everything I had fought for. The garden was alive again, the scent of lavender drifting through open windows, and my business, Vista Designs, was thriving. Jordan and I worked side by side, he at his cafe, me in my home office, each cheering the other's small victories. Evenings were filled with laughter, quiet dinners under the maple tree, and the kind of companionship that felt natural and kind. It took years to build this peace, but it took only one text to shake it. It came from Michael. Hey, sis. Long time. Heard your studio's doing great. Let's catch up. My first instinct was to ignore it, but curiosity tugged at me. Maybe he'd changed. Maybe time had softened the sharp edges of the past. I replied with a polite, cautious yes. A few days later, another message arrived. Mom, Dad, and I would love to visit. Saturday. Okay, my stomach tightened. I hadn't seen them in nearly 4 years, not since the will reading. Still, something inside me whispered that maybe this could be a bridge, one last attempt at reconciliation. So, I agreed. Saturday arrived grey and cool, the kind of day when the wind carries both promise and warning. Their SUV pulled into my driveway, spotless as always. My father stepped out first, his smile too wide to be genuine. My mother followed, clutching a bakery box, as if sweetness could mask old bitterness. Michael came last, sunglasses perched on his head despite the overcast sky. Wow, my father said, glancing around. You've really made something of the place. It's lovely, my mother added, though her tone carried surprise more than admiration. For one person, at least. I led them inside, every step feeling heavier. They toured the house like appraisers, opening doors, commenting on decor. You've done a lot with Grandma's old place, Michael remarked, trailing a hand along the walls. Hard to believe she left it all to you. We sat down for lunch. I'd made roasted vegetables and baked chicken, but the food went mostly untouched. Conversation felt like walking through a minefield. My father finally broke the silence. You've done well for yourself, Elena. But this space, it's a lot for one person. You know, your mother and I are looking to downsize, and Michael could use an office space for his new business venture. I blinked. You're suggesting what, exactly? Michael leaned back, grinning. We move in. You've got extra rooms. Family helping family, right? I set down my fork slowly. You can't be serious. My mother smiled faintly. We could all benefit. It's not like you have a husband or children yet. Their words sank in, bitter and heavy. You mean, I said quietly, the same family who turned me away in the rain. My father's expression hardened. That was years ago. Let's move forward. I stood, heart pounding. You taught me something that night. Family isn't about blood, it's about respect. And you lost mine. An uncomfortable silence filled the room. My father's smile faded. My mother looked down. Michael muttered, "You've changed." I had to, I replied. Because you never believed I could. They left soon after, their polite goodbyes thin and hollow. But as their car disappeared down the road, a chill ran through me. My father's last look hadn't been one of peace. It had been of quiet calculation. 3 weeks later, while attending a marketing summit in Detroit with Jordan, I received a message from Evelyn's old neighbor, Patricia. Elena, dear, I think you should come home. I saw your parents and brother moving things into your house. They said you gave them permission, but that didn't sound right. My heart dropped. I opened the security app on my phone, and there it was, live footage of my father unlocking the front door with tools, my mother directing boxes inside, and Michael laughing as he carried luggage through the hallway. My home. My sanctuary. I called Michael immediately. What are you doing in my house? He sounded almost casual. Relax, sis. Family property. You don't need all that space, and Mom and Dad deserve comfort in their later years. We'll sort it out legally if you want. Legally? I repeated, disbelief giving way to anger. You broke into my home, Michael. Get out, now. Not happening, he said coolly. If you push this, we'll contest the will. Something inside me steadied then. I was no longer the trembling daughter begging for approval. Do what you need to, I said. But remember, I have proof. Jordan and I drove through the night, rain splattering against the windshield, headlights slicing through the darkness. When we arrived, the house was lit, the curtains drawn. I stepped inside to find boxes labeled, family storage, stacked in the living room, my artwork shoved into a corner. My parents froze mid-conversation. You're early, my father said, his voice tight. We thought you'd be back tomorrow. I took out my phone. The police are already on their way. My mother gasped. Elena, this is family business. No, I said firmly. This is my home. You had your chance to be my family. The sirens arrived minutes later. The officers reviewed the footage I'd shown them, clear evidence of the break-in. My father tried to argue, claiming it was a misunderstanding. But the law didn't see it that way. You have 30 minutes to vacate, the officer said. Or you'll be arrested for trespassing and burglary. Tears streamed down my mother's face as she whispered, we have nowhere to go. I had nowhere to go once too, I said quietly. You didn't care then. They packed in silence, their anger simmering beneath forced civility. Michael muttered curses under his breath, while my father refused to look at me. When they finally left, slamming the door behind them, I stood in the living room surrounded by boxes, shaking but relieved. The sound of the rain outside felt like closure. Weeks later, the court upheld my claim. My parents and brother were charged with trespassing and fined. A protection order ensured they could no longer approach me or the property. Justice came not through revenge, but through boundaries I'd learned to defend. In the months that followed, life returned to harmony. The garden flourished brighter than ever, as if nature itself approved of the peace restored. I placed a wooden bench under the old maple tree, carving one word into it, Evelyn. It was a tribute to the woman who had believed in me when no one else did. Vista Designs continued to grow. I hired 2 employees, and Jordan proposed one clear evening under the starlight, a simple silver ring gleaming in his hand. We married quietly in the garden, surrounded by friends who had become my true family, Sarah, Alex, and a few kind souls who had stood by me through storms. A few months later, I discovered I was pregnant. When I held the ultrasound photo, tears filled my eyes. I whispered, you're going to have the kind of love I never did. One evening, as Jordan cooked dinner, my phone buzzed. An unfamiliar number flashed across the screen. I hesitated before answering, Elena. The voice trembled. It was my mother. I heard about your wedding, and the baby. I just wanted to say, I'm proud of you. For a long moment, I said nothing. Then softly, I replied, thank you. When the call ended, I looked out the window at the garden glowing beneath the twilight. Rain began to fall, gentle and steady, feeding the roots that had once been buried in pain. I realized then that forgiveness isn't surrender, it's release. I didn't need their approval anymore. I had built a life grounded in truth, resilience, and love. My grandmother's words echoed in my heart.